time. Now we're recording.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say I didn't see the bit.
So, yeah, we didn't see the recording thing. It's because we weren't recording. And welcome to the We All Follow podcast. My name is Matt Fox. I am your host. I am joined by an illustrious group of guests. Again, today we have Ben, Sean, and Nigel back with us.
I've done
Sean,
that.
what's up?
I was going to say one time we were filming when I started doing, StreamYard. We were talking. I forget who I was talking to. It was a half hour. And then I looked up and I was like, oh, man, I never started push the record bar. It was a great talk. I think it was like Al Morgani or one of these old NFL or NHL guys. And I'm like, we'll have to redo it. And then they're just like, nah.
You're like, no, we will not be redoing it.
I'll just remember what you said from my thing and recant it.
In my heart. Follow us on X at We All Follow Pod. Like and subscribe if you're watching us on YouTube. I did want to shout out from the group chat, Adam, his nan, watches the show. She likes, subscribed, and has notifications on, so she never misses a show, and you should too. So shout out to Adam's nan, and let's jump into the format. We have the moment of the week, boys. What was your moment of the week? Ben, what do you got for me? I know you've watched games all over the world this week.
Are we saying just Premier League or
no? It can be any of the matches that we've had this week. Since this is a Champions League and European match week, we can go from any of the games, both in the Prem and outside as well.
Yeah, I've got two Champions League ones that I really like. I was struggling to choose between them. So one was, there's a player for Lille called Ayoub Boadi, and he turned 17 yesterday and was starting against Real Madrid and was one of the best players as Lille beat them 1-0. I just think it's a cool story, and the fans sang happy birthday at the end of the game. And then
awesome.
in the changing rooms, they do this thing after when they're winning, they're all like chanting around the table like this. And Mbappe's brother did the chant saying, "Where is Mbappe?" And obviously, because he plays for Lille and Mbappe plays for Madrid. But yeah, so that was one. And then the other was just Adeyemi's hat-trick, because those three goals were ridiculous. Like, if he can do that consistently, like, he's going to be a serious player. It's just the consistency, but like the pacing behind, finishing from distance, like his physicality, duels, everything. But yeah, so I couldn't choose between the two, but I think the Boadi one's a cooler story.
Yeah, that's a fun one. Sean?
I mean, look, if you're watching all the European matches midweek, I mean, I think Villa 1-0 over Bayern Munich is massive. I mean, that's first of all, for the Premier League, it's big. I mean, for the team that, wants to finish fifth. But look, I mean, there's no bigger way to kind of announce the fact that you're a decent team in Europe and you have a chance to maybe make a run in this competition than beat Bayern. So, Bayern's been playing well, obviously, in the first week, scored 9 goals. So for Villa to get and look, and Duran, this guy's unbelievable coming off the bench. I mean, you just look at him and say, "Go get me a goal. I got you." And he just goes and scores a goal. I mean, it's unbelievable. And you look at some of these teams that are struggling to score goals, struggling for strikers. I'm not going to name any names of any teams because I might implicate one of my teams. And you see this guy and you're like, man, his price tag's going up and up and up every time he scores.
Yeah, that was a sick hit in that game. Nigel, moment of the week?
Could have been a few, to be fair, and I was toying on a couple of European ones, but I'm going to stick to Premier League, and my moment of the week was a winner at Goodison. Everton winning 2-1. I mean, they're off the mark. Unexpected against a Palace side who were struggling. Palace is struggling. I can't believe it. But Yeah, Everton getting a winner and not losing 3-2. So getting 2-1 up, not losing 3-2. They scored 2. We didn't concede 3. I think that's good. But yeah, my other two, what I was toying with, one was Miles Lewis Skelly making a Champions League debut the day before his birthday. I thought was fantastic. And the other one was all the strikers who Arsenal have looked at. 2 of them go head to head in the same game. Both of them score, but Dusan comes out on top against Sesko. Dusan was crazy. But yeah, my moment of the week is Everton. Well done, Sean Dyche.
That was a barn burner. The Leipzig game, Leipzig Juventus. I had a few good moments of the week. There was, it's bad when you have a player who's trying to find a way to get out of the game, and Bruno Fernandes with that was just like, please, please, I want to go home kind of tackle. Like, he didn't even get enough contact on it for it to be like really injuring, which like, that's how you know that you're in the mud. It's like, I'm not actually trying to injure this player. I just don't want to be here. Like, I don't want to be here. So that was pretty funny. That Duran hit. He went on the CBS post match, and I don't know if you guys saw that, but when he said that he didn't see the keeper off his line, he just like went off of vibes and turned and hit it, which like is amazing. I tend to believe him. But either way, that hit was sick. Like, he like slowed down enough to let the ball run in front of him with his hand out, holding off the defender. And I mean, that's as clean a strike as you're gonna get. Notable also of a pretty fun set of matches last week was Cole Palmer scoring 4 first half goals. I mean, that's pretty freaking impressive. Even if I think he's doing it in what ultimately is a bit of a mid-table squad. But my real moment of the week, those were the honorable mentions. My real moment of the week was Arsenal's 2-0 win against PSG in Europe. And obviously it's a PSG side that doesn't have Neymar, Messi, or Mbappe, and you can't discount that. But they have a really good squad of players that are there. And it's just demonstrated the ways in which Arsenal can perform, right? And that's pressing hard and high up the pitch in the first half. That's a mid block. That's playing deep and playing on the counter, right? And I think you really saw why Arsenal are one of the better teams in the world right now. And I think their goal will be to challenge for, obviously, the league and the Champions League as well, because they can play in any context. No matter what. So that's my moment of the week. I did want to take a look at the Premier League table, because that is primarily what we do here. And now that we have a few match weeks under our belt, I figured now is as good time of any to start taking a look at the table, and that can be something that maybe we don't do every week, but every couple weeks and check in. So in first we have Liverpool, followed by Man City, Arsenal, and Chelsea in the Champions League spots. Then you have Villa in 5th. Pretty close behind are Newcastle, Spurs, and Brighton with Forest kind of surprisingly wrapping up the top half of the table. Right now in the relegation places, you have Wolves and Southampton on 1 point each. And then you have Crystal Palace, like you just said, Nigel, who are struggling quite a bit with 3 points in 18th. Moving up from there, you have Leicester, Everton, and Ipswich. West Ham, Man United in 13th. And Brentford and Bournemouth solidly in the mid-table as we wrap up match week 6. Nigel, it sounds like you have something to say.
I just want to point something out, because obviously I do my strength of schedule stuff and try and keep it so that people understand a bit of context. Take Liverpool at the top, 15 points. They've played so far Forest in 10th, Bournemouth in 11th, Brentford in 12th, Man U in 13th, Ipswich in 15th, and Wolves in 20th. They haven't played any of the top teams.
Yep. I think people get out.
None
I think
of them.
people start to get kind of, hey, Liverpool. You're like, listen, can we have a little context? But I think they don't say that a lot of times about some of these teams that haven't played. And City and Arsenal's played some tough games, and Chelsea, and I think you have to take that with a little bit of context.
Arsenal have been away to 2nd, 5th, and 8th.
I think Arsenal had the worst fixtures. City's has been quite bad, to be fair, because you think Newcastle, they've got Fulham
They've played
next.
us and Newcastle.
Yeah, and they've got Fulham
West
next.
Ham, yeah, West Ham, Brentford, and Arsenal have had the three. They're the three with the most trickiest fixtures so far.
Yeah.
I just, you had mentioned, Everton as your team of the week, and obviously with the news they're getting sold here, and they have obviously the brand new stadium, which is, if you've seen pictures of it, it's going to be amazing. I mean, do you think this is kind of going to right the ship now for them, and we'll maybe start seeing them come up the table, and then obviously with the new owners and new investment in the new stadium, you think maybe there'll be a little, start to stabilize a little bit here in the next year or two?
I think so. Yeah, I think what it will do is it'll mean that you probably won't see Jared Branthwaite getting sold in winter or summer, because if they stay up, I can see them getting quite a bit of investment from a Friedkin group, which then they could push on. They could become a big team again. I mean, Everton used to battle for the top 5-6 places regularly around UEFA Cup places. So yeah, it'd be nice to see him battling back up there. But although it might stabilise, I don't think Sean Dyche is a man to lead them there. I think they'd have to change the manager.
Yeah, I think that's probably what they'll do with the new stadium like that. They want a new, exciting look to the club, and I respect Dyche. I think he's great at what he does. And I always wondered, imagine if he had like some world-class outlets, because he's never really had it. He's always had quite average strikers. But I don't think they're going to do that. I think if they want to show ambition, you think of when they had Martinez at one point, and they beat us like 3-0 at one point, and they had like Deulofeu, Lukaku, some really good players at that time. But the thing you mentioned about Branthwaite, I actually hope he stays, because I think that there aren't many teams that need a left centre back, and it's only really Man United. And look, like he would definitely start at Everton under a different manager, and at Man United they've got Lisandro, Yoro, De Ligt, Maguire, and it's a mess. Do you know what I mean? So yeah,
maybe Everton could hire Ten Hag.
Oh,
that'd be good. That'd be great.
Yeah, and then he'll say new era and stuff. Yeah,
it'd be great for them. It'd be great for us too.
I mean, it would be interesting. I think, Ben, if you're Branthwaite and you're potentially, if you go to Man U and they hire Southgate, which either Southgate or Potter seem to be nailed on for that job. But I could also see like being on a team like Everton that is on its way up, right, with potentially a new manager, and you being the center of that with the new stadium and probably getting a new deal is probably not the worst way to go on to the next couple years of your career, right? And if you continue to perform and you can get that team somewhere closer to European places, then I think that makes sense from a career standpoint if you don't have the clubs that you want to go to coming after you. Yeah. But it's hard because Man United pays so much money in wages that, whatever Everton are willing to pay him is going to be dwarfed by what United will pay him. And I think ultimately, Sean Dyche knows his role, right? Like, I don't think Sean Dyche has. If you gave him an honesty serum, I don't think he's telling you that he's gonna win the Champions League. You know what I mean? Like, he knows his role is at the bottom end of the table, helping teams stay up and rescuing teams that are in danger of going down, right? And
modern
he has
day
his little
Sam Allardyce.
Yeah, and he's made a
This is-
very
this is-
good living doing that.
Yeah. You're going to say something?
This is why I think
What's that,
Graham
Nigel?
Potter. I was going to say I think Graham Potter's perfect for Everton. You know, if they change the manager, I think Graham Potter's perfect for him.
Maybe. There might be some in the Championship that I think would be good though. So there's like Carlos Corbrani. I think I really rate him. I really like him as a manager. And if you think of that, sorry, go on.
I said Danny Roll at Sheffield Wednesday as well. He'll be one.
Yeah,
who'll
he's done
probably
decent.
get a, he'll
Yeah,
get a
there's
job.
actually some really good managers in the Championship, and you think with McKenna, he did really well, barely changing the squad last season, and basically they went up above Leeds, who had a team of players that went for like a couple that went for 40 mil, you know, and there's always some really good quality. There's Carrick as well, but yeah, we'll see.
And I think they have a decent squad base to work off, right? Like if you're a manager, it's not like and you're coming in at the end of the season, let's say they get 15th or 16th, and you know, the guys that they have under contract, provided you can keep Branthwaite, they have a pretty decent squad to build on. If you can get the new owners to get maybe 2 or 3 pieces, I feel like you could have a pretty decent squad to play. Honestly, like kind of a couple of different ways of playing, right? Like, yes, it's not built for Sean Dyche. He's just inherited these players and made them do what he does, right? But I think the skill sets of the players that they have are varied enough to where you could get away with playing a different way. But that's quite a bit on Everton, who's not commonly the focus of this podcast, but that's all right. Hit us up, join us in the Discord. Like I said, like and subscribe on YouTube. And we have match week 7. It's a barn burner of a match week, in my humble opinion. We got some really fun matches this week. It's funny because there's only 20 teams that play each other, right? But there's a lot of different ways that those matches can be planned out in the schedule and how they come together. So I think let's talk about not the ones in the center for right now. Let's do a bit about the other matches that we have. So we have Palace hosting Liverpool. We have City hosting Fulham. We have Everton hosting Newcastle. Then Spurs head down to the coast to play Brighton. Forest travel into London to play Chelsea. And Arsenal play host to Southampton on our what I would call match of the week matches. Nigel, which of these matches stand out to you?
Crystal Palace versus Liverpool stands out like a sore thumb for me, apart from Everton Newcastle. So we've just been talking. I said Palace are underperforming. They're struggling. Yet I've got this sneaky feeling that something's going to happen this weekend. I've got a sneaky feeling something is going to happen, and all of a sudden Palace come alive. It's just one of them. It's just one of them. I think if I was a betting person, I'd have Crystal Palace draw or win. I'd have Crystal Palace double chance. Just the same as I'd have the same for Everton Newcastle. Everton draw or win. Everton double chance. But yeah, Palace Liverpool is the one for me. I think Liverpool might come up. Although they're playing, just to clarify, Liverpool are playing another team in the bottom half of the table in the season already. I actually think they might struggle this game. I think it might be one what highlights a few weaknesses.
If you're following along to Nigel's betting predictions, these are going to be US odds, so please forgive me if they don't make sense. But double chance, you have Everton minus 150 and Newcastle minus 350, which is interesting. That's pretty tight odds for what it's worth. Both teams to score, yes, minus 187.
I'd be a millionaire by now if we followed Nigel's predictions.
Dude, we'd be doing all right for ourselves. Sean? What you got on the non-Man U Aston Villa game?
No, it's interesting. I know we
schedule.
have people watching all over the world, and when you go over to England to watch matches, and the 3 o'clock window, everybody's got IPTV now, including me, but it's dark there. You can't watch it on TV, but we have the Peacock Premium, and we can watch any match. So sometimes in that 10 o'clock window, I'll try to find a game that's maybe not like the highlight game. Maybe Brentford Wolves. Wolves. I think I think their manager's in a lot of trouble here. Obviously, they've been awful, but they played okay last week against Liverpool at times. Brentford's been okay. Just think, Wolves maybe scrambling in one of these games to get a point or get 3 points. And, I feel like, that every once in a while in that 3 p.m. window, 10 a.m. window where I am, you get a weird game like that, and it ends up being a really good game to watch. I think that could be it. Or, maybe West Ham Ipswich. I think West Ham, I think maybe Lopetegui's, same thing. I mean, he's got to try to figure out what's going on. By the way, it's Manchester United's a goal down right now with 13 minutes to go, and they just brought Harry Maguire on. Like Harry Maguire. They're a goal down. Like if they lose, and Johnny Evans, they brought Johnny Evans and Harry Maguire into a game. They're down in the 79th minute and trying to and they have to win because they drew the first. Like I just don't. This is what I'm saying. I might put my head through a window. Like what are you doing? Go ahead. Go ahead. Somebody please talk about one of these match weeks. But I think West Ham Ipswich, Leicester Bournemouth could be good, but that Brentford Wolves game would be my pick. I think that has the potential to be a pretty good game.
Well, Nigel had Gary O'Neill on Sackwatch last week. Nigel, do you think that still stands?
I was purely going on results, and I still think. Don't get me wrong though. Do you know the fans clapped them off the pitch because Wolves, despite only having 1 point from 6 games, have actually played some really good football. Good football. And I think they've been unlucky in some of the games, apart from the one against Chelsea where they just capitulated. I think they've been lucky. They did good against us on the first game of the season, to be fair, and they have been unlucky. I'm still a bit worried about Gary O'Neill. I just think that he's got to get a result. He's got just the same as Oliver Glasner at Palace, just the same as Russell Martin at Southampton. If you've only got 1, 2, 3, 4 points after 6 games, you're gonna need a result, especially the 2-on-1 point Wolves and Southampton. They're desperate for results. Southampton ain't getting nothing at the Emirates this weekend. I mean, I don't really want to talk about it, but Aaron Ramsdale, it was a good servant for us while he was at Arsenal. But all I'm going to say is they're going to see they should put they have to put a sponsor's logo on his backside on Saturday, because they're going to see him picking the ball out of the net a lot. It's like when boxers get the bottom of the shoes. If they expect to get knocked out, they get a sponsor on the bottom of the shoes. You'll see the bottom of the shoes. Well, you'll see Ramsdale's butt quite a lot, because he'll be bent over picking the ball out. But yeah, so I think Gary O'Neill for me is still. Bruno Fernandes might have just been sent off here. That's horrendous.
He's kicked a third player in the
He's off.
face.
He's off. Bruno is off. He's kicked a player in the face.
No,
he's off.
See, this is the thing with ability.
It was a little unlucky. It was like 3 yards or 3 meters from the goal, in front of the goal, and he was kind of going up, but the guy went down to get it and he kicked him in the head.
Yeah.
What was the
unlucky
thing a couple years ago when was it Neymar who got suspended so that he could go home for?
Yeah, he's got to go home for his sister's birthday.
His sister's birthday. This screams family holiday,
touch him.
family birthday.
He didn't even touch him.
Yeah, he's in Portugal as well, so maybe
maybe he just wants to stay there for a few days.
He
already got his Premier League ban, and now he's got to get the Champions League.
Oh, they've reversed it, haven't they? They reversed it.
The
Premier League one.
But yeah.
Oh,
but
did they?
Yeah, they reversed it. Yeah, but yeah, so in terms of sack watch. I do think Glasner and Gary O'Neill might be on thin ice. I think it might be. Russell Martin definitely. Russell Martin probably goes after this weekend. I think.
Yeah, I think if we have a big win, I think he might be one. I was thinking you've got 5 teams. So there's Wolves with O'Neill, West Ham, Lopetegui, Ten Hag, Russell Martin, and Glasner. The only thing is, I think Glasner gets more time because he's shown so much last season. I think they're Palace, and they've spent quite a bit as well. So I think they'll give him a bit longer, and they've got the quality. I think they'll turn it around. But sometimes it's that thing when you've got such high expectations that when you do okay or bad, then it's even worse. But no, I definitely think Lopetegui and Ten Hag, the difference with them is I think you're not seeing any positives at all. You're seeing someone who's lost the dressing room. They're not playing well. There's a real disconnect between the fans and the club and the players. Whereas at Wolves, there's signs each game you watch. Even when they played Arsenal
There's
first game of
buy-in.
the season, you can say they were actually really good that game, And there was a lot of players there with a lot of passion, a lot of fight, and they play as a team together. And before the season started, I looked at their first 5-10 games, and I was like, yeah, that's a really tough start for Wolves. And then Martin, the issue with him is, I think this is where you see, like, as a manager, you see whether he's going to be more or not, because last season, one of the things that I had is an issue with him was they would dominate the ball. It was a bit like Luis Enrique's, that thing where they have all the ball, barely get any quality shots off, and then concede loads of chances. Do you know what I mean? It's that thing where you watch and you're like, okay, well, great. Pau Torres, when we watch Spain, Pau Torres has made 150 passes, but Spain have lost 1-0, and there's very similar like that last season. And I think bringing so many new players in and not many that are like Premier League experience, sorry, it's what they did last time when they got relegated last time. I liked, what was his name? Ruben Sellers, was it? Manager
Ruben
when they were
Schellers, yeah.
Yeah, he was okay. He wasn't amazing, but he was okay. But the same thing, that all their players, they just brought in all these really young players that aren't used to that level. So yeah, it's not looking good for them.
I actually think if Arsenal pumps, Southampton. Look, if Aston Villa beats Manchester United, Ten Hag will be gone. Like, I think that's 100% at this point. Like, it's just with all the results here and just the way this game has gone down. But if Arsenal goes, and beats them, 4-5-0, and they have a minus 14 goal difference after 7 games and 1 point, I think they could, you make the case that he's probably gone there as well. Wolves, maybe you give them a little bit more chance, but, there could be multiple changes here ahead of this international break. And then you got another break again in about, 5 minutes after you come back. So, I think we're going to see, I think we're going to start to see a lot of these guys start to go. But I think if Arsenal wins that big, they could maybe make a change.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely the time to sack a manager if you're going to do it, right? Heading into international break, get them in, get their staff in, the players that aren't going away on international duty. I mean, for these teams, a lot of those players aren't going to be going away on international duty, right? So you can have a bulk of the team there to do the training. I mean, even if it's Man United, you know what I mean? Like, get your people in, set the vibe and the environment of the players that are there, and then that way when the bigger players come back, you've kind of set that vibe and they can integrate into that. Nigel, a little quick double chance, wanted to do rundown with the with some odds that I saw. So double chance for Crystal Palace is 13-8. So I got UK odds this time to make it a little bit nicer for you. So let me know which one of these sounds appealing. So you have 13-8 Crystal Palace.
Yep.
You have Leicester 8-11. You have West Ham 1-4. Brentford 3-10. Brentford and Wolverhampton are both they're basically even odds, so that's an interesting matchup.
No.
And then Everton 11-8, and then Brighton 7-10 on the ones that are somewhat close. None of them that you're taking.
Forest.
Forest are 1-5.
Brentford's a win is like even money, right?
No.
Brentford just a win straight, not win it double
Brentford
chance.
Brentford is Brentford is a 21-20.
Yeah. I love that game. That's the one I like.
Yeah, that's nice. That's nice.
That's it.
Look,
you get
Leicester's 40
even money to for a game against a team that they really should beat at home. So,
interesting set of odds today. But I think my one is going to be Fulham at Manchester City. City are out Rodri, obviously, as we very well know. Fulham, who have had a pretty good record the last couple weeks, they seem to have been kind of hitting their stride with their new look. They beat Forest away last week 1-0. They won home against Newcastle the week prior 3-1. So, I think they've been quietly starting to get on a bit of a run. Ben, how do you think that one plays out? Do you think that Fulham have a chance to get a draw away from home, or do you think it's going to be Man City, whoever's left is better than what the best that Fulham can bring?
Possibly. I think Fulham, they're in really good form. I would have worried about the midfield battle between the two if Rodri was there, but without Rodri, I think Fulham might be able to get an edge over them. And I think they're set up really nicely to hit a big team on the counter, and they're always got a lot of physical players for them. So I'm looking at that with their defence. Who do they get? Anderson, got Bassi, Robinson as well. They've got some.
Diop.
Yeah, Diop as well. Yeah, they've got some good defenders and like defense first defenders that aren't going to try and do anything fancy. So I think they're set up to get results against these big teams. And then you've got the transition threat of the Hale End guys. So maybe a draw. I wouldn't go much more because I think City,
I don't think anybody thinks that they're going to win at City away. But yeah, can they pull?
If it was home, I would say
say
they might win it, to be honest. But yeah, away it's tough.
Yeah, it's tough no matter what.
Fulham have only lost one game this season, haven't
they?
Yeah,
it was the first game.
Game of the season.
They should have won.
Yeah,
should have won.
Yeah,
Traore had two chances.
They're putting together a pretty decent season. You know what I mean? Right now they sit in sixth, which I think is probably better than most of us thought that they would be at this point, for whatever that's worth. So let's talk about the big one, because we have a big match. Two of the northern cities this is like the manufacturing derby. This is like we have poisoned water due to manufacturing runoff, and our people look inbred. I'm not talking about the Aston Villa game this past weekend. What are you talking about? But nonetheless, Sean, you said that you thought that Ten Hag might get sacked or will get sacked if Man United can't pull out a result. You want to talk more about that? Do you think that they're going to be able to come away with the result?
No chance. Harry Maguire, I take everything back. 10-man Manchester United gets it back in injury. Stoppage time. 3-3. No. I look, Villa is really, really good. I every time I think this team isn't gonna win a game, like I'm always super confident. Even when we were terrible, like I'm always super confident that my team is gonna win. And like an idiot sometimes, but I just don't see it. I mean, Villa's really good. Look, they just beat Bayern Munich. Emery's got them really playing well. You just look at the table here, and Villa's just right in the mix. I mean, just right there with Liverpool, City, Arsenal, Chelsea, and once again, the top of the table stuff. I don't know who's going to score for United in that game. I just don't know who's going to score. I just don't have confidence right now. Someone's going to score in a big game. I know you guys probably. I don't know how anybody could look at that game and say, yeah, who's going to win that, like 3-2 or something like that. Because you just gave up 3 goals to Porto, and Porto stinks. How are you going to hold down Villa, who's playing out of their minds and just, kept, Bayern to a clean sheet? So, you're going to have to score some goals. So, they're going to get 2 goals to win that game. I just don't see it.
Nigel, this sounds like a Mystic Nige prediction incoming. What do you got for me on the Man United Aston Villa game?
Aston Villa 2, Manchester United 2.
Oh, you just want Ten Hag to stay in a job.
I think they'll get a draw. And interestingly, I'm watching this now. Man United have looked 10 times a better team, down to 10 men with Maguire and Evans at centre back than we do with De Ligt and Martinez on.
De Ligt was terrible today. I mean, he just needs to,
I mean, so in defense of the Porto slander, which we will not accept on this podcast, Sean, Porto is currently second in the Liga Portugal with 6 wins and 1 loss after 7 match days. Only Sporting Club de Portugal, put some respect on their name, is in first place undefeated.
I'm just my buddy Amor Pereira, who's went to I had tickets to the match yesterday, the Atletico and Benfica match, which was a little stunner, and then I had tickets today, but I just can't get out of work and stuff like this. But he's over there. He's Portuguese, so I've been going to Portugal since 2014. Basically a month or for a week and a half to watch matches, and he tells me that Porto stinks. So I gotta side with him. But I mean, look, once again, Pilsen last week, Pilsen 2 weeks ago. I mean, you got 2 points, Porto and Pilsen. That's just not good enough. But yeah, I could they get a result? Maybe. But I just don't know.
It's tough because in their defense, right? Like going away in Europe to these big clubs, historically big clubs, is always hard. Those, like I've said, they could have lost 19 of their last 20 games, right? With the other being a 0-0 draw. And then an English team rocks up and they play like Ronaldo R9, like these guys come out of nowhere on these matches in Europe. So that's one of the things is like when we go through Europe and we go through these match days and we look at the fixtures that we have coming up, it's like, yeah, Arsenal are gonna go play away to whomever, but the European days they just hit different. That being said, Ben, thoughts on the Man United Aston Villa game? Aston Villa coming off of amazing night in Birmingham with the Villa supporters going crazy after the 1-0 win over Bayern Munich.
I just think Villa are so much better than them. I could see it being like a 3-0, genuinely. It's kind of a bit of hope in there, but yeah. I think they're on like you said, they're on such a high, and it's so many players that are performing well. Like the defenders, like Pau Torres has been great. Tielemans has looked a whole new player this season. Like he looks great. And his playmaking from midfield has been like a massive part of why they've been so good. And then you've got Watkins and Duran. I'm just looking at like can they not just find a way to play both? Like Emery just play both of them, because go old school 4-4-2, they would be such a problem together. The type of runs that they both make. So yeah, I could see them being a whole other level better than them, to be honest. The Man United.
It kind of reminds me. Sorry, go ahead, Sean.
That was my dog Casemiro that was chiming in there when you're talking there. She was getting all pumped up.
Is she old and over the hill and slow?
She's a 105-pound puppy, purebred Doberman. So no, but
a lot more energy than the.
A lot
real
more
Casemiro.
energy. Yes. Yeah. That's right.
I think Villa. It's such a weird game to analyze. What I was gonna say was it's interesting, the Duran Watkins conversation. I honestly think the way that Emery's using them is brilliant, because you have Watkins, who, I mean, he turned who was it, Upamecano 5, 6, 7 times in that game. Had that guy on skates. He was a mess. He got the yellow. He almost had another. There was probably like 2 or 3 other situations where if Watkins doesn't like engage his core and hold up for himself, could have been another card. And so you have Watkins, who's, I mean, they're both super physical and really quick, but you go against Watkins for whatever 60, 70 minutes, and then you have this guy who's arguably just as physical, maybe a little bit faster than him, coming on after, and your legs are tired. Like, you're totally cooked. And I think it's that 1-2 punch where if you get them both at the same time, yeah, sure, maybe they go a little bit longer because they're not the main man running off of it, but you also lose the dynamism of being able to bring that guy off the bench and against tired legs, right?
You're right. I was just trying to remember who else they've got in their midfield, and obviously they've got Rodgers playing behind Watkins, who, to me, he's been really good. He's probably been one of their best couple of players, and he keeps getting better each game. Like, he's getting more involved in the goals. I think he got a goal and assist against Ipswich. So it's fair enough, he's justifying his place in the team. And when you've got so many players in form like that, it's a good problem to have. I really like their midfield options, though. Like the fact they don't even have Kamara, but they've got Onana, they've got Barkley, Tielemans. That's and McGinn as well. Really good depth there. That any of those midfielders would start for Man United. When you look at all of them, and I think the physical side, they will beat. In the midfield, they'll win that battle physically, definitely.
Yeah, they have a physical team. I think they're gonna, Bailey looks to see him he came on as a substitute, and then came off as a substitute through injury. So it'll be interesting. He seems to kind of have some kind of reoccurring, I think it's a hamstring injury, but on one hand, I think that Villa are gonna crush them. On another hand, I think that Villa are going to have some type of, or might have some hangover from the big Champions League emotion and that first energy and that big win. And then on another hand, I think that somehow, like Nigel, you've said previously about Ten Hag's model being sitting deep against better teams and playing on the counter, right? And I think that could play into Man United's hands, right?
Yeah, I think so. This is why I think Man will get a point at Villa Park. I think Villa are coming off a massive high against Bayern, and that result just now for Man United, just getting that equaliser, 89th minute 90th minute equaliser from Maguire, that'll give them a little bit of confidence. And I think Villa will be overconfident. I think Man U will feel that they can get something out of it. And I just think Villa aren't solid at the back. They're not as good as what people think. Ipswich scored twice against them, and Ipswich tore them up. So somewhat chronic. I just think Man United. The thing what Man United have got is they've got you can slate them as much as we want, but they've got 3 wide players who can actually change a game. Garnacho, Rashford, and Amad Diallo. If they're on it, all 3 of them can change a game, depending on which 2 they play. And so I think that I've just got a feeling that Man U will sit back a bit. They'll be a little bit pragmatic. They will sit back a bit, let Villa come onto them, and then they'll exploit that high line because they've got pace. Especially if it's Diallo and Rashford, there's loads of pace there. And I just think that they'll do that. I think that's what they'll do. And they'll get... But Man United can't defend, so Villa score anyway. Yeah, it'll be interesting. And Ben said midfield is we're going to no go zone for Man U. They just need to pack as many in there as they can because Villa have just got way better players in the middle of the park. So yeah, it's that's why I genuinely think Man U will go to Villa Park and get a draw.
That was my mistake on the... Somehow I mixed up. I thought it was at Old Trafford, but it's not. Which, it's gonna make it a tough game. It's gonna be a really tough game for Man U. But again, I fall back on Man U went to Liverpool. Was it last year? After like a horrid run of fixtures, they had been really not performing well, and they went to Liverpool and they got a draw. So I think it's one of those. Can Ten Hag pull a rabbit out of his hat? The thing about Man U is that they can play terribly and get results, and not necessarily wins. Like they'll beat the lower table teams, but they'll play bad. They'll have a bad series of results, and then they'll get a good result, and it like keeps Ten Hag in the job. And I think that's the funny thing, that there's all these pressure release games, and that's one of the things that I looked at when we was analyzing the schedule and looking at when I thought Ten Hag was going to be fired, is like they'll have these tough games and then they'll have a really easy game, right? Or they'll have a big away game where if they get a result, then that gives him some breathing room, right? And potentially is extending Southgate or Potter's extended holidays. I think Chelsea have just finished paying up Potter, according to reports. So maybe that puts him in more of a position to want to come back. I mean, if it was me, and I said this previously, if I was Graham Potter, I would take every single dollar that Chelsea owed me before I took another job and relax and hang out with my family. And then when those payments were up, I would consider taking a new job. And it seems like he's listening to the podcast because now that his payments are in his bank account, he is ready for a new adventure. Boys, any other notes on these last games? We've gone through this podcast pretty quick.
I think I was just going to say, I think it could be a very, very interesting time at the London Stadium if Lopetegui doesn't get a win against Ipswich. That could be a bit naughty.
Ben, who do you think? Who would you, if you were the West Ham owners, you fire Lopetegui after the Ipswich draw 2-2, right? Who do you bring in as the new manager? I think, is Ben frozen? Nope, Ben dropped off. Nigel, you're up, bro. Who do you bring in as manager if you're the West Ham owners? They draw 2-2 against Ipswich. Who do you bring in to make the most of the pieces that they have? Because in my opinion, and I said this before, maybe a little foolishly, I think West Ham have the pieces to make it into Europe.
They do have the pieces. They do have the players. Who do I bring in?
Ten Hag.
Sean, you can't pawn Ten Hag off on everyone.
Yeah. Who do I bring in? That's a good one. Do you know what? Something what we spoke about earlier about players from the Championship, managers from the Championship. I'd be tempted to look in the Championship and possibly at a Danny Roll at Sheffield Wednesday. I'd be tempted to maybe have a look in Germany and see if you can prize some of the younger coaches out of Germany. Although that's could be hard because you're going to need quite a bit of money to do that. But they seem to be having a lot of success in promoting their ex-players. So like Nuri Sahin at Borussia Dortmund and Hoeneß at Stuttgart, etc. So do West Ham go down that line? Do they look for an ex-player? Does Mark Noble go from backroom to from front office to management suite? Don't know. I don't know if he's got his badge or not. To be fair, but yeah, it'd be interesting. I don't think there's anyone readily available at West Ham. I don't. Does Graham Potter want to go to West Ham? I don't think that's his place. Does Southgate go to West Ham?
To be fair,
you never know.
Ben, so sorry, before you dropped off, the question was, if you are the West Ham owners and they draw 2-2 to Ipswich this weekend, who do you bring in to be the manager after sacking Lopetegui?
One of the managers that I suggested for them before was Gary O'Neill, because he used to play for them as well. So I actually still like him as a manager, although he's not had the results. I think if he has better quality players, maybe. But there's two others that I think might be better. One just escaped my mind. Who is it? Oh my days! It's going to annoy me. One was I was thinking was Michael Carrick at Middlesbrough. I think he's done really well. It's really going to annoy me. What was the other one I had in my head? Will Still he's at Lons now. This is the thing. He's only just moved, so I don't think he would want to. It's the issue with some of these managers that are actually really good, but they moved in the summer. It's like with Man United at the moment, and people are talking about who would they get next, and some people are saying like, oh, maybe someone like Amorim. Well, he's definitely not going to leave Sporting mid-season. You know, there's some of these that they respect the club that they're at, so it's a little bit difficult with these mid-season ones. That's the reason why maybe they go for someone like O'Neill, because he might lose his job as well, or he's under pressure at least, so he might be open to leaving and going somewhere else. But yeah, let's see. I definitely think what we were talking about earlier with the Championship managers, there's some really good quality there. And for some of them, that might be quite a nice jump to show that they've got the ability to do it in the Prem as well. And also, just one other thing. When you look at their team, the quality of their team and how bad they look, any half-decent manager could come in and in the first 5 games get them looking way better. So that might be quite a like enticing thing if you're an upcoming manager and you think, actually I could go and really sort out my reputation. And then also as a project, it's still exciting. They've got a good stadium, they've got a really good sporting director, and the owners are investing a lot of money. And so if they get the manager right, it could be they could turn it around.
Yeah, I mean, they have a really good squad. Like, at the end of the day, you have really world-class players in Paquetá, Kudus. If you've been around me, you know that I am a big Jared Bowen stan. If you've listened to the Euro podcast, I think he's a really excellent player. They have some pieces there. They have Fulkrug, who they brought in. They have Suchek, Antonio, who can put in a shift. Somerville, who I know was one of your big signings of the summer, Ben, in terms of people coming up from the Championship that could make an impact. So I think you're right, Ben. You come in with a coach that can implement a system pretty quickly. You can have these guys playing pretty good football pretty quickly. You have Wan-Bissaka, who I Sean is familiar with from his time at Man U, and who's ultimately a good defender and fullback. So quickly you can turn that around. The other thing is, I understand it's a mid-season hire, but at the end of the day, the money in the Premier League is big. These clubs can offer these managers packets that they're not going to get at even at the biggest clubs in Europe. You know what I mean? Like the Sportings and the the Portos, they're not matching a mid-table pay packet from a Premier League side, right? So I think that's the other thing to consider is like, yeah, maybe you just made a move, but maybe your wage packet goes from 2 million a year to 6 million or 5 million. You know what I mean? To pry you out of there mid-season. And I mean, that's a financial security that most people are not going to pass up, regardless of how they feel about the club that they're at, right? So yeah, I think it'll be interesting. I think it's likely that they make a move. They haven't been playing well, and like you said, they have the front office set up, Nigel, with Noble and with the new sporting director, who's really put a. I remember, if you guys remember, with David Moyes at the end of the Moyes tenure, where there was like friction between Moyes and the sporting director over who were they bringing in, and we're like, every signing, it seems to make sense. They're bringing in these players who are solid and have good backgrounds. So I think the next piece of that is going to get a manager who can bring out the most in them. Any last things for today, boys?
Yeah, the sporting director Tim Stighton has done a great job. He is good as well. He's a good sporting director.
Sean,
And,
any last things before you have to go?
Yeah, I think that it's interesting to see what Chelsea does on the back of wherever they played. I know they played somebody today somewhere in the Conference League, but I don't know if it was home or away. But
They were home to Ghent. Home to Ghent.
I know. I bet them, but it's tough to follow where Chelsea. But just to see if they can keep going and keep scoring goals. So I think that they're always interesting to watch in Nottingham Forest. So
No Palmer in the Conference League. They didn't name him for the squad for the league phase, so he's not eligible to play this set of games. Although they can add him for the knockout rounds, of course.
this is the thing: when you got a squad of 50 players, though, they can afford to do that.
I think us four could probably be, against some of those Conference League teams, and I think we could probably do a job for Chelsea for a game.
I think if they had to start, the maximum was one of us on the field at the time, right? So like not starting all four of us, but
Chelsea
if I had to do the Harry Maguire role for like 37 minutes, and then we could sub on Nigel to do 35 minutes, I think we could piece it together. All right, that's all for today, boys. Thanks a ton for jumping on. It was a good one. It's going to be a fun week of matches. We'll see what it looks like next week. Like and subscribe on YouTube. Hit those notifications so you never miss a show, and we'll talk to you next time. Thanks again.